Magandang araw. Ako si Kuya Code. Welcome back to my channel where I teach Python through coding challenges and HackerRank. Today we'll look at the name tuple problem. Name tuple is very similar to a regular tuple, except it does have a few differences that definitely make it more useful and reusable as well. So I'm just going to show you quickly what a regular tuple is, in case you don't remember from my previous video. I can also link it in the card as well. So let me open up my IDE here. So as an example for a name tuple, a name tuple is something that's immutable. It generally has more than one value, and this is how you make a tuple. So you have these regular brackets here, and we can just put in some properties. So for example, let's make a book. The title is Noli Me Tangere. Oops. That's the title, and then we can also have an author, Jose Rizal, and then we'll have a year, 1887. So this is our book. Imagine this is like an object. So objects are very common in programming, and a named tuple is, like an object. I guess a regular tuple is kind of similar to an object as well, but a named tuple is even more closer to an object. So what is an object? In programming, an object is a way to group related data together. So just like a real world object, like a car has properties like color, brand, speed, and those kinds of things. Similarly, a person object can have properties like name, age, and city, or in this case, a book object could have properties like the title, the author, and the year. So in Python, objects usually come in something called a class. So a object is basically an instance of a class, where a class is like a blueprint, and you can use that blueprint to make copies of that. So you can have multiple copies of the class, and those copies are called objects, which is an instance of that class. Think of it as like a mold or like a cookie cutter. You make the mold itself, and then you can use the mold to make identical shaped cookies. So that's generally what an object is, and you'll see in a few minutes, how this relates to tuples and named tuples in general. So this is the way that a regular tuple works, which is still pretty good, I suppose, but there is one problem with it. Let's say if we wanted to print, the author, we don't really know where the author is. Obviously in this case we can just look at where the author is and see that it's the second one, which is index 1. But if we print that, it gives us what we want. But let's say this comes from a database, we don't know which order that this is in, so it'll almost be impossible for us to know which one is the author. So what we're going to do instead is make a name tuple. So I'll go ahead and do from collections import name tuple, like that. And then we'll have named tuple. The named tuple is called book. This is basically like our class or our blueprint, where this is the actual named tuple name, and then these in this list is going to be the properties. Imagine if you have like a database or a table where you have a bunch of columns at the top, and then in each column you have all the different properties that are associated with that column. So these would be like the column name. So we can have title. Let me just put this one will be title, this one will be author, and then this one will be year. So now that we have our blueprint for our named tuple, we can actually just turn this off. Now we need to make an object, which is an instance, or basically a copy of the named tuple. So we can call it whatever we want. We'll just call it Noli, and then book, because this comes from this. So if you change this, this also has to be changed. And then inside of here, you can just put in these exact parameters. So we can just literally copy this and put that in there. So now the difference is that this tuple is a named tuple. It's attached to these columns, which means if we reference these column names, it actually gets us the data. So it doesn't matter what order year is in, because this year is attached to the the column name year. we can just call it by the year, and then regardless of where it is, it'll just still give us the information. So for example, we could just print first we'll have to, this is our variable name, so we still need to type out the variable, but then we can do dot and then title. And then in this case, we'll just do dot author. I don't know why I keep doing that. Print dot year. So that should work. Oh, it's because this was never closed. That's why I was doing that. So now we have all three of the properties that we asked for. But like I said, it doesn't matter which order it's in, it'll still give us the results that we want, which is definitely a lot better. Because if you have a database with a whole bunch of information, you can just basically print this and then it just gives you all of them. Or I guess normally you'd print that in like a loop or over a collection or whatever. We'll just do another quick example here. So student named tuple called student. And then for the column names, we just have name and grade. And then we can have, we'll make a list of named tuples. Student. I'll just do this so I can copy it quickly. So like Jose, Maria, Carlos, A, B, A. So now this is just a regular list where each item in the list is the name tuple that we created the blueprint for. And now we can just loop through this like you normally, normally would. So for student in students, we can just print student.name got grade, student got grade. It's definitely a lot easier than having to do like, student dot or student at index 0 got grade, student at index 1 if this was just a regular list. It's definitely a lot easier to have it by its name itself. So that should work, and we'll go ahead and print that out. I made a typo somewhere. This is students with an S. Which line is that? Line 21. Student. This is studnet. Okay. There we go. Now we got our information. Jose got A, Mary got B, and Carlos got A. So that is pretty straightforward when it comes to named tuples. Definitely makes it a lot easier because then I could just use this blueprint to make a whole bunch of different objects. And then normally you could just, if this is stored in a database, definitely makes it a lot easier to organize all your information. We'll go over to the actual challenge here. So it's pretty straightforward as it shows. You have this case, it's using a point object that it created. It has 1 and 2 and it's doing some operation. And this is the same thing where it's using a car object with some like, price and mileage and whatnot. But looks like in this task, they have a spreadsheet containing all the student IDs, marks, and class names. And the goal is to calculate the average mark of all the students. So it's kind of similar to information or to previous challenges that we had. But looking at this, so yeah, so the first input is obviously the integer that shows how many items we have, which in this case is 5. The second one is just all of the actual column names, and then going through here is just all the actual data itself. And if you were to add up all of these marks and divide them by how many you have, which is 5, you'll find that the average for this first one is 78 and this second one is 81. And of course it does this on purpose where the marks are in different categories. They're in different orders, just to kind of show that it doesn't matter which order the column is in because you're getting it by the name, which definitely makes it a lot easier, as I mentioned. So for this first part, we'll have to import collections, named tuple, and then loop equals int input. Probably zoom in a little bit here, I think. And then column names equals input dot split. So these are all the column names, and loop is obviously grabbing this 5 here. And then we need our named tuple. Student equals named tuple called student. And then rather than passing in a, like before we had it like this, but because column name's already a list, we can just pass in the variable name, it still works. And then we'll just make a list, that way it makes it easier for us to iterate over everything. So students, and now we can just loop through. So for underscore in range loop. So what are the things we're going to have to do in the loop? So for each loop, we need to get all the information in the row. And then we're going to need to take that information and make a new named tuple object out of that information. And then we can just add the information to our list. And then once all the information is in the list, then we can just kind of go through it and just sum up all of the marks and then just print out the result where you have marks, the sum of the marks divided by however many marks you have. So the first thing is we'll get our row input dot split. This is our row. We need our named tuple, and we can just use the this operator to unpack everything in the row. So that way, this is going to be 4 different things. It's going to be in a list, and then you're going to pass each one into the named tuple as 4 different things because we're expecting 4 different ones. And then we can add that to our list. So the list is called students dot append. And we can pass our student named tuple into it. And then that's it. So now once this is done, all of this information will be inside our list, and then we can just simply print it out. So what we're going to do is we're going to print for every student in our students list, we are going to take student dot marks. We need to change that into an integer. So we're going to take the marks for every student in our students list, and we need to do something. Well, we need to sum them. So we can put that in brackets, just put in sum. So this is going to print out just the sum, as you can kind of see here. If I go ahead, so this is the actual total sum is 390, but then obviously we need to divide it by the number of students. So divide that by the length of students, which this is a variable for the actual list itself. So if we go ahead and submit that, so that is correct, and we'll go ahead and submit the whole thing and see what we get. So it looks like that is correct. So that's it for this video. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe for more coding challenges. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or suggestions for future videos. See you next time on Code. Paalam.